Hey, this is Peggy with Easy Peasy Machine Embroidery, and today I want to talk about the Creative embroidery software. And basically what I'm going to be covering just today is the free basic software. If you have Premiere software on your laptop and you were to buy a new laptop, it cannot be re-downloaded. If your computer crashes, you cannot re-download the Premiere version of the software. So it's getting time for some of you to upgrade to the Creativate. And if you already have the MySonnet Perpetual software, you're still good to go. You can still use it forever until they stop supporting it. And you're going to have to excuse me because I have not done videos in a very long time, so this may be a little bit choppy. So let's begin with the basics. The freebie software comes with 11 fonts, and those fonts are in categories. We have the children category, display, elegant, floral, fun, modern, script, and traditional. And some of those categories have multiple types of fonts in them. You'll have to excuse this program a little bit because I have the Elite version, and you're going to see some tabs that are not on your program, but I want to play with the lettering for just a minute. With your exit drawing, see if I can move that around a little bit. With your program, the free program, you have the font manager, which you can mess with some sizing a little bit. You can say I want a font that is only 5 millimeters, give or take, and it will show you some of those fonts that are 5 millimeters, give or take. Let's bump it up to 10 millimeters. Okay, see how it changes? It also gives you the ability to do quick font. And I'll do a whole nother lesson on quick font, but basically what that does, it allows you to make fonts that, let's go down to, they store them in a folder. Whoops. Go a little bit slower so I don't freak anybody out. These are all fonts that I've made. Okay? So if I were to say I want the Tickled Pink font, and I'm going to put my name in there, you have the ability to use the shapes. I'm going to just use this shape for now, and I'm going to do a size 25, and I'm going to hit apply. And if I want to change that font, you don't have to get rid of it and do it all over again. You just take your cursor and right click over the font, and it's got to be boxed in. You say edit lettering, and you can change the gap. The gap is the spacing between the letters, and it puts more gap in between them. But you can also do a -10, and that's going to put them really close together. And if you were doing something that was script, you might want to move your lettering closer together. Another thing, and I'm not sure if the basic program has this, but you can also choose individual letters. And I'm just going to go back in here and do a horizontal. And what that's going to do is over here in the slides, I can pick individual letters and I can twist them around a little bit. So maybe I'm doing a kid's apron or something and I want a little funkiness to the lettering. There you go. And once you've got that done, you can go to your home, and I'm going to combine all. Another thing I should probably show you at this point, I don't know if the color sort is on the basic program, but it's in the exporting your designs. Anyway, I talked in class about color and tone. What that does is right here, it says the lettering is in Sulky Rayon 40 Ivy Green. But I want it to be in a color that I have. So I go to Color and Tone, and I go to Original Threads down here, and I say I want to change it to a thread that I use. So if I use Robeson Anton Rayon 40, it's going to switch them. And now it's going to say that I should be using green grass as my color. I can also click on the colors and change the colors. And one more thing I talk about, you'll hear me talking about thread cache. Thread cache is where I add all the thread that I have here at my house, and it will only choose the thread that I have. So it'll say Peggy's thread, and this orange is 2328 pumpkin. Okay? So I'll get rid of that. So this is the home screen on the basic software. You notice there's a lot less tabs here. And your basic software will allow you to copy a design, and it will allow you to paste the design once it's copied. You can cut it or remove the design. You can duplicate the design. I'll get into a little bit more specifics between copy and duplicate in another lesson, unless you want to just play with that on your own. You can delete objects. You can create a box around an object. Select all, select none. Here's your color sort. And you can rotate, or you could use this little circle right here to rotate. You can align different things on your screen. If you have something that is a little bit outside of your screen line, that's the screen line's right here, you can do center in hoop or move into hoop, and it allows you to do the change hoop. So if you went into the change hoop, you have all these different machines that are listed there. And say you had, I don't know, the Brother PES 100. It's going to show you what hoops that machine will take. And if your machine is not listed, you can also pick enter hoop size, and say you have a 8-inch by 8-inch hoop, you can enter its size there. The other thing that I'd like to say at this time, which is a lifesaver when you don't know your sizing, if I were to put 10 and then the quotes, it's going to tell me that 10 inches is equal to 254 millimeters. So you can set your hoop up that way. And I think I talked in class about, so we're going to say 200 for the width, but I make really big banners that are 800. And even though I don't have a hoop that size, I'm going to set my design that I make up in that hoop and then split it later. This is your View tab, and the way it looks in the basic software. I'm in my own software, so things may look a little bit different, but we have the 3D view, we have the realistic view without the grid, and there's the 2D view, which shows basically your stitches. At this point, I want to mention that there is a zoom tool down in the bottom that I can click. And there, now we start seeing the actual stitches. And if I click the 4-way arrow, it goes back to the regular size. Also, in your View tab, I believe you can get your length. So you click on Get Length, and then you're going to do a left click and drag, and you're going to see that right now that's about 91.1 millimeters wide and about 100 millimeters tall. You can also get rid of the grid, and you can add the grid back, and you can also, I've got a 10 millimeter, I want to say 1 inch is 25 millimeters. So I'm going to put 25 millimeters, and it makes the grid bigger. And sometimes when you change that grid around, it makes it easier to position things. So that's just something to play with. I also want to go into the File menu. This is where you insert designs or open designs. If you click Save As, that is automatically going to save it to a VP4 format. And yes, I know some of you do not take a VP4 format, but you still want to save it in that format because a VP4 format allows you to go back and edit things. So when you are saving a file and you have all kinds of things on there that you have not combined, once you combine the files, it's basically, as my old boss would say, you've baked a cake. There is no changing things around anymore. You can't add different flavorings to it, to the basic cake. You can't add chocolate chips to it once it's been baked or whatever. You get the idea. So you don't want to combine things. And then you save as a VP4. And then you are able to go back and change things around. So, for example, going back into the software, I'm going to put, and I'm in my own software, so don't get too freaky out on me. I'm going to say, I better put 25 on that. So there's that. And then I'm going to add another super design, and I'm going to say 29 on that one. So if I save it as a VP4, I'm just going to call it sample and put it out on my desktop so I know I can delete it later. And I close it all out. I can then go back in. Goodness, I got a lot of things open on my screen right now. I can go back in to my sample and reopen it up. And I can continue exactly where I left off. But if I combine everything, watch the left-hand side of my screen, because right now I can change, maybe I want this a different color. So I'm just going to add orange there. Maybe I want this a different color. And I'll put blue there. I can still change all that. But once I've combined it, I cannot go through and move things around or alter the lettering, add different lettering, whatever. The cake has been baked. And I'm gonna go backwards, Control Z, see if I can do that. Alright, so there's the VP4. So if I want to save it to another format, you have to do an export. And when you export it, then you get to pick your file. How do I want this? Do I want it as a PES or a XXX or a VIP or a HUS file? All of those. EXP. Okay? You can say which type of file you want it to be saved as. So I'm going to say VP3 because that's what I have. And it's going to say combine it. You can check these kinds of things. And I'll show you how to turn them off so you can combine them on your own or choose how to export your designs. I'll get to that in just a minute. Okay, but you're gonna say okay, and then you're gonna put the file wherever you're wanting to go. Another thing I should probably mention at this point, some of you who just downloaded the basic program in my Sonnet, there is a sample folder that you should have downloaded. Let me go out onto the internet for a sec. So I am on the Creativate website, creativate.com, and I am going to go to the Make tab, and then I'm going to go to Download Software. Let's see if I can get to it. So you choose your type of desktop. Here is download software, but you should download the background sets and the sample files. The sample files come in a zip format that you're going to have to unzip and put in the right folder where you know where they are. I keep them in my Sonnet folder. But all that's got to be downloaded. And let's go back into here. If I go File, I'm going to say Insert. I'm going to go to my Documents, and that's where I keep my Sonnet files. And there's the samples that I've unzipped and I've copied over and put them into my Sonnet folder, into my documents. So there's the samples. Here's the embroidery. Here's the stitch. And now I'm going to take and choose extra large icons. These are all designs that come free with the basic program. And there's all kinds of things in there. Just got to get and play around in that section. Okay, if you didn't download the samples, they're not going to be there. Another neat thing about the basic program is if you go to your letter tab and you go into Font Manager, and at least I believe it's in the basic program. If it's not here, I'll show you where it is, and I'll go do that right now. So on the File menu, we're going to come down, and we're going to go into Configure. And in that Configure box, you have Utilities. That's where you find your thread cache and your quick font. I'll talk more about both of those in a later lesson, but for now, because some of you have just the basic program, I'm going to go into quick font, and it will make you a font with any of the lettering that is installed on your computer. Anything that's in your Windows font file. So these are all the things that I have on my in my font folder, and I pick the font I want, and I say next. Extended means that you can do the exclamation points and colons and stuff like that. Next, and there is what the font's going to look like, but you have choices here. Some fonts work better than others, so you just have to play. Here's the outline. I did a Grinch font. See, I like this outline. And you have the border stitch options. You can do a triple stitch or just a running stitch. You can make those letters into appliques. Of course, I don't think I'd want to cut around all those. If you have a Cricut, maybe. Your satin border. Okay, and what that does is it puts it in, we say next, and it's going to put it in a folder called My Fonts in your font folder. Remember how I said there's categories in there? One of those categories is My Fonts. So it would put that French script in the My Font folder. I'm not going to do that because I really don't want that script right now. But that is how it's done. And the Appearance tab, if you were doing white snowflakes and your thread color was white and your screen color was white, it would be kind of hard to see your designs on your screen. So here is where you change the color of your screen. So you can change the color, you can change the grid color, I don't normally do much with the measurements, and I don't usually do much with the applique background. But say I wanted my applique to look like a Aida cloth. It's going to allow you to do that. And that's just the applique, and I'll do a whole another lesson on applique. So don't worry about that right now. Import, that is going to allow you to use different thread ranges. These are the thread ranges that I have used. So those are the only ones that are going to show up. And that's because I have tuned my thread cache to just those manufacturers. I'll do lessons on that at a later date. And your export is, do you want your designs combined? If you combine your designs here and it automatically combines things and you're trying to do some kind of in the hoop project, it could put something that is supposed to be stitched out last at the very beginning because whoever digitized it used the same color. Okay, so if you're doing in the hoop stuff, do not check that combine box. I keep it unchecked so that I can choose whether or not, see, if you check those boxes now, they automatically will export in that manner. Okay? Decoration, center placement stitches, line placement stitches, those kinds of things are all in there. Here's where you just say, get in there and play. When you export a design, it will say the design name and it'll say exported. You can also put your name there, so it'll automatically say exported by and your name. Okay? So that is the configure button. And I probably should mention this right now. In the preference area, sometimes you put one design over another, and you don't want, how do I say this? If you stitch one on top of the other, it's going to get really dense. So if you check that remove overlap when combining embroideries, the embroidery that is on top, it will not stitch anything underneath that top embroidery. And that's something you'll understand a little better someday. Okay? It'll just leave a blank space, and then it will afterwards start stitching the second design in that empty space. Okay, I think that's pretty much all I wanted to cover for just the basic program. And before I go, I just need to mention, if you want to keep seeing these videos, you need to like and subscribe to this channel to keep them coming. And if you want a video on something specific, you can leave it in the comments, and I check my comments every once in a while to see if somebody needs me to make a video on something. Okay, so we'll catch you later. Have fun playing.